Welcome to the Explainer. We're going to look at this piece of ancient wisdom that, believe it or not, could save your next big project from total disaster. Sound good? Okay, let's dive right in. So to get to the bottom of that question, we actually have to start with a story. It's about this really smart leader, a supposedly perfect plan, and a complete, catastrophic failure. One that, and this is the important part, reveals a hidden trap that's lurking inside all of our minds. So let's meet our main character. We'll call him Sato-san. Now, this guy is a super experienced IT project manager. He's been tasked with launching this huge, critical new app. I mean, he's got a fantastic track record, and he is absolutely sure this project is just going to be another notch on his belt. Okay, so picture this. It's the kickoff meeting. Sato-san gets up there and he just lays it all out. The whole shebang. Every single detail is planned. Every deadline is set in stone. In his mind, his years of experience mean he's thought of everything. I mean, for him, the path to success is crystal clear. But almost right away, his team, the people actually on the front lines, they see a huge red flag. One of the veteran engineers speaks up and points out a really critical flaw in the schedule. We're talking about a mistake that could literally bring the whole system crashing down. So, how does our guy Sato-san respond? Does he go, wow, thank you for spotting that. That could have been a disaster? Nope, not at all. He feels challenged. He doesn't see this expert advice as a gift. He sees it as an attack on his authority, on his perfect plan. So what does he do? He just shuts it down. End of discussion. And what happened next? Well, it was exactly what that engineer predicted. The app launches, and bam, the servers crash. Users are absolutely furious, and the whole project is just a massive, expensive failure. So what really went wrong here? Look, this wasn't just a simple technical mistake. The real failure, the root of the problem, happened inside the leader's own head. All right, to really get why a smart, experienced leader like Sato-san made such a disastrous choice, we've got to look at the science. We need to understand how our brains are actually wired. Because it turns out, sometimes our own instincts can be our absolute worst enemy. There's a name for this, and it's called the overconfidence effect. It's a cognitive bias, and what it means is that psychologically, every single one of us is basically hardwired to believe we're more correct than we actually are. And here's the kicker. The more experience you have, just like Sato-san, the stronger this bias can get. And look, this isn't just some vague psychological theory. We've got hard data. Check this out. A classic study from all the way back in 1977 asked people a bunch of general knowledge questions. Then they asked them, hey, how confident are you in your answers? The results were just stunning. Even when people said they were 100% absolutely positively certain they were right, they were still wrong about 20% of the time. Think about that. So why on earth are we like this? Well, it's something scientists call an evolutionary mismatch. See, for thousands and thousands of years, our survival literally depended on making quick, decisive actions. You're facing a saber-toothed tiger. You don't have time to form a subcommittee to discuss options, right? You just act. That instinct for rapid, confident decisions, that was a feature, not a bug. But today, that same instinct can totally betray us when we're facing complex, modern problems. A good way to think about it is like you've got two different brains inside your head. You've got your amygdala, that's your fast, emotional survival brain. When it hears criticism, it doesn't hear helpful feedback. It hears threat, and it just freaks out, triggering that whole fight or flight response. And when it does that, it basically hijacks and shuts down your prefrontal cortex. That's the slow, analytical, strategic part of your brain. So, when Sato-san's plan got questioned, boom, his amygdala took the wheel. Okay, so if our own brains are pretty much wired to betray us in these high-stakes moments, what do? How do we fight back against our own instincts? Well, the solution, and you might not believe this, comes from a piece of wisdom that is literally thousands of years old. This one sentence from the book of Proverbs, it contains this incredibly powerful framework for success. And just to be clear, when it says wage war, it's not just talking about an actual battlefield. It's a metaphor for any high-stakes project, any critical business decision, basically any challenge where failure is just not an option. So what this proverb does is it lays out this beautiful, clear two-part process. Step 1, you establish your plans, but you do it by counsel. What does that mean? It means you don't just cook up your plans in a vacuum all by yourself. No, you have to actively seek out different perspectives, different opinions, so you can find the flaws before they find you. And then and only then do you move to step 2. You execute, you wage war, using all that wise guidance to build a strategy that's actually superior. Okay, that all sounds great in theory, right? But how do you actually do this? How do you put this ancient wisdom into practice, especially in the heat of the moment, when your emotional brain is just screaming, threat, threat? Well, we can do it with a really simple but incredibly powerful psychological tool. It's called an if-then plan. And the idea is brilliant. You make a decision in advance when you're calm and rational about exactly how you're going to behave in a future high-pressure situation. You're basically pre-programming your response. So here's the script. This is the mental habit you can build right now. It's simple. If my plan gets questioned or criticized, then I will immediately respond by asking, "That's interesting. Tell me more about that." Just that one phrase. It does 2 incredible things. First, it creates this little buffer of time, which is just enough for your rational brain to catch up with your emotional one. And second, it actually forces you to listen and try to see things from their perspective. Okay, now there's a really important distinction we have to make here. This is crucial. Seeking counsel is not the same thing as ruling by committee. It's not about giving up your authority as a leader. The proverb is actually super clear about this. You gather counsel to establish the plan, but it's you, the leader, who builds the final strategy and executes it. Think of it like this. Counsel is the raw material. It's the input you get from your team, your advisors. Your job as the leader is to be like a master chef. You take all those ingredients and you craft them into a winning dish. That's the final strategy, the output. And you alone, are ultimately responsible for it. So, let's bring this all home. What's the big takeaway here? When we boil it all down, what does true strength and leadership actually look like? Well, first, you've got to accept that our brains are just wired for overconfidence. It's a bug in our system. Second, you have to see that seeking counsel isn't weakness. Heck no. It is a strategic weapon against that very bias. It's your secret weapon. And third, remember that the leader's job isn't to have the counsel, it's to integrate it into a winning strategy. So at the end of the day, true strength isn't about knowing all the answers, it's about having the humility and the wisdom to build a process that finds them. And really, that's the question this ancient wisdom leaves us with. For your next big challenge, your next big project, whose counsel are you going to seek? Because remember, the quality of your decisions will almost always depend on the quality of the counsel you're willing to hear.